distance to PNR is given, flight fuel is given. We have to find fuel consumption, still air range, and if critical point is reached 45 minutes before point of no return, find excess fuel carried on board. So we will start with finding fuel consumption first, and distance PNR is given to us. So this is your point A, this is your point B. Outbound track is how much? Outbound track is equal to 317. Homebound track reciprocal of 317, that is 137. Right? Then there is PNR between point A and B. The distance to PNR is 732 nautical miles. Now always when we are dealing with PNR sums, we have to draw a table. One column, that is one row from A to PNR, and another row for PNR back to A. So column for ground speed, track, wind velocity, and true airspeed. So yeah, so you are going outbound from point A to PNR. When you are flying outbound from point A to PNR, you will be flying an outbound track 317. Outbound track 317 at a true airspeed of 185 at winds 205 at 35 at 35 knots. This will give you a ground speed of how much? So 317 course. So TAS 185, course 317, and winds 205 at 35. So that gives you a ground speed of 195 knots. 195 knots. So outbound ground speed is 195 knots. So outbound ground speed is 195 knots. Now we are going to come back from point of no return to point A, departure point. So homebound PNR to point A, track will be reverse track, homebound track 137, TAS remains the same given in the question, 205 at 35. So everything remains the same except your track or course. So now TAS 185, course 137. So with this your ground speed will be 169 knots. 169 knots. Okay, so outbound speed 195, homebound speed 169. Now we will use distance to PNR formula to calculate fuel consumption. Why? Distance to PNR formula contains endurance. Endurance is related to fuel somehow. So outbound into homebound, homebound plus outbound. So 732 equals to endurance into 195 into 169 divided by 195 plus 169. Okay, this outbound ground speed, homebound ground speed I have substituted. So 732 equals to endurance into 195 into 169 is 32,955 divided by 195 plus 169, 364. So 732 equals to endurance 32,955 divided by 364 into 90.5. 90 hours 32 or 90.5. So endurance will be equal to 732 divided by 90.5, which is 8 hours 5 minutes. 8 hours 5 minutes. This is your endurance. Now what is endurance? Endurance is nothing but the amount of time for which the fuel in your fuel tanks will finish in. Okay, so how long the fuel in your fuel tank is going to last is your endurance. So endurance is nothing but flight fuel, fuel in your fuel tanks divided by fuel consumption. So endurance we have 8 hours 5 minutes. Flight fuel we have 1200 pounds. So fuel consumption will be how much? So formula for endurance is how much time the fuel in your fuel tanks is going to remain. That is equal to total fuel divided by the consumption rate. Okay, the rate at which fuel is going to be consumed. So fuel consumption will be equal to 1200 divided by 8 hours 5 minutes. So 1200 divided by 8 hours 5 minutes, that is equal to 148 pound per hour. So answer is 148 pounds per hour. If light fuel is in gallons, it will be in gallons per hour. Okay, simple. Next, still air range. Now what is still air range? It is nothing but fuel on board divided by fuel consumption into TAS. Fuel on board is 1200 pound. Fuel consumption is 148 pound per hour. True airspeed is 185. So, so 1200 into 185 divided by 148 is 1500 nautical miles. So still air range is 1500. Next, they have told us critical point is reached 45 minutes before PNR. So this is your point A, this is your point B. Let's say this is your point PNR. Now critical point is reached 45 minutes before PNR. So let's say critical point is here. Now the time difference between critical point and PNR is equal to 45 minutes. Now this 45 minutes is nothing but equal to a distance of how much? We can calculate that distance. Time is 45 minutes. This speed is outbound speed from A to PNR is 195. This gives us a distance of 195 knots into 45 divided by 60 hours. So 195 into 45 divided by 60, 146, 140, 195. So distance speed into time 195 into 45 divided by 60, 146. This gives a distance of 146 nautical miles, right? Now distance to PNR is what? Total distance to PNR is 732. So 732 from point A, I will draw it here again. From point A to PNR, the distance is 732 and your PNR is here, let's say. The distance between PNR and critical point is 146. 146. So 732 minus 146, 586. That means distance from point A to critical point will be 586. Okay, and the distance between CP and PNR will be 146. Now we know the distance to critical point is 586. We can use this formula. Distance to CP is total distance D between A and B, homebound, outbound plus homebound. So 586 equals to D. Homebound speed is 169, 169 plus 195. So 169 D, 169 plus 195, 364. So D will be equal to 586 into 364 divided by 169 is equal to 1262 nautical miles. So total distance between A and B is 1262 nautical miles. Okay, now the time taken to travel from point A to point B will be how much? Distance divided by speed. So 1262 divided by speed of outbound speed of 195 knots, that gives us a value of 6 hours 28 minutes. That is the total time required to go from departure to destination. Now fuel consumption rate is 148 gallons per hour, 148 pound per hour. If your engine consumes 148 pounds per hour, so for a total duration of 6 hours 28 minutes, it will consume fuel equivalent to 148 multiplied by 0.628, 957 pounds. Now, how much fuel do we have on board? We have flight fuel 1200 pounds. Fuel needed to travel from A to B is 957 pounds. So, extra fuel that you are carrying on board is 1200 minus 957 or 960, 43 pounds. So, this answer is 243. Okay. So, this is how you do this sum. Very important sum. So select that option which is closest to this value. Next, similar question. Now here they have given us flight fuel and they have asked everything is the same except distance to PNR. Again, A to B, our outbound track is what? 210. B to A or PNR to A, our homebound track will be equal to reciprocal of 210, that is 030. PNR is here. The distance between A and PNR is 785 nautical miles. Now we will make a table for PNR. So outbound A to PNR, the track is 210, the task is 200, winds are 270 at 35 ground speed. Then homebound from PNR back to a track of 030, task of 200, winds stay the same 270 at 35. So ground speed. Now track 210, task 200, wind speed 35, 270. So this gives us a ground speed of 180 knots, 03000. So ground speed 215 knots. Okay. Now we will use distance to PNR formula. Endurance into outbound into homebound divided by homebound plus outbound. So 785. Endurance will be equal to, so this will give us a value of 180 into 215, 38,700. 180 plus 215, 395. So endurance is 785 into 395 hours, 8 hours. Now what is endurance? Endurance is how long the fuel in your tank is going to last. So total fuel on board divided by fuel consumption. So 8 hours, fuel on board is 1100 pound. So fuel consumption will be 1100 by 8, 137.5. So approximately 137 pounds per hour. Okay, so that is your first answer. Still air range, fuel on board by consumption rate into TAS in the numerator. So 1100 by 137 into TAS is 200. So 1100 into 200 divided by 137 is 1606 nautical miles. So select the closest option. Next, critical point is reached 45 minutes before PNR. So let's say this is your PNR. Critical point is reached 45 minutes before 45 minutes before PNR. That is equivalent to a distance of how much? So distance equals to time into speed. Time is 45 minutes, convert that into hours. Outbound ground speed is 180 knots. So 45 into 180 divided by 60 is 135. So distance between critical point and PNR is 135 nautical miles. Now we all know that distance between departure and PNR is 785. 785. So the distance between alpha, that is departure and critical point, will be equal to 785 minus this part, which is 135. So 785 minus 135 is 650. Now we have distance to critical point 650 is equal to total distance between A and B. Homebound speed 215. So 215 plus 180. Simplify this. 650 multiply 395 by 215 into 395, that is 1194. So total distance between point A and B is 1194. Time A to B will be equal to distance A to B divided by outbound ground speed. So 1194 divided by 180. 6 hours 38 minutes. Total time taken to travel from A to B. Now fuel consumption rate is 137 pounds per hour, right? So total fuel consumed for 6 hours 38 minutes will be total fuel required for this flight or flight fuel will be 137 pounds per hour multiplied by 0638, which is 909 pounds, approximately 909 pounds. Now the fuel on board is 1100 pounds. So the extra fuel that you are carrying is equal to fuel on board minus flight fuel. 1100 minus 909, that is 191 pound. So extra fuel that you are carrying is 191 pound. Select that option which is closest to this. Okay. Next, question number 28. On a flight A to B, track is given, TAS is given, winds are given, distance to PNR, fuel consumption is given. So again same, track A to track B. Now outbound track is equal to 155, homebound track will be equal to reciprocal of 155, that is 335. PNR distance is 1050. 1050. Now we will make our usual table. Outbound A to PNR, homebound PNR to A. So outbound track is 155. True airspeed is 200 knots. Winds are 260 at 35. So outbound ground speed will be 206. Homebound will be 188. Now distance to PNR will be equal to endurance into outbound plus homebound divided by outbound plus homebound. So distance to PNR is 1050. Endurance unknown, outbound 206, homebound 188, 188 plus 206. 206, 38,728, 188 plus 206, 394. So endurance will be 1050 into 394 divided by 38,728. That is equal to 10 hours 40 minutes. Now we have to find fuel on board. Endurance equals to fuel on board divided by fuel consumption. So 10 hours 40 minutes equals to fuel on board divided by fuel consumption of 141 gallons per hour given in the question. So fuel on board will be equal to 10 hours 40 minutes into 141, that is equal to 1000, that is equal to 1504 gallons. So fuel on board is 1504 gallons. Still air range. Fuel on board divided by fuel consumption into TAS. So 10 hours 40 minutes into 200 knots is equal to 2133 nautical miles. Next, now critical point lies 1 hour 15 minutes before PNR. That is equivalent to a distance of, that is equivalent to a distance of outbound speed 206. So 206 knots into 1 hour 15 minutes, that is 257 nautical miles. Okay, 257 nautical miles. Okay, now we all know that distance to PNR is a total of 1050. So distance to critical point will be this distance to PNR minus this 257. Distance to PNR minus the difference in the distance between them, that is 1050 minus 257. So distance to critical point is 793. 793. Critical point is DHO plus H. So DH is how much? 188. So 3904. So total distance equals to 793 into 3904 divided by 188. 793 into 3904 divided by 188 is 1662 nautical mile. That is the distance between point A to point B. 1662 nautical miles. So the time taken to travel from A to B will be equal to 1662 divided by outbound speed 206, 8 hours 4 minutes. Now our fuel consumption rate is 141 gallons per hour. So flight fuel from A to flight fuel will be 141 gallons per hour into 8 hours 4 minutes, 1137 gallons. This is the fuel required to go from A to B. Now the total, now actual fuel on board is how much? It is equal to, it is equal to It's given in the question. So actual fuel on board that we have found out is 1504 gallons. Actual fuel that we are carrying is 1504 gallons. Fuel that is actually required for flight is much less than that. That is 1137 gallon. So excess fuel that you are carrying is 1504 minus 1137. So 1504, that is 367 gallons. 367 gallons. Okay, or pounds, whatever appropriate. In the book it's given pound, but that is wrong. Your answer should be in gallons. So there is unit mismatch. So yeah. So it's 367 gallons. So this is how you do all the three questions. This all three questions are similar to one another. Simple, conceptual. Practice these questions many times and you will be good to go. With this, I'll stop here. I will do the next question, some more important questions from this chapter in the next video lecture. Don't miss that video lecture. And to get a notification, you will have to subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet. And share this video with your friends. They might find it very useful. Don't forget to like this video lecture. I'll see you. All the best.